just having these shows back to back to back to back, it's not the same as those movies we had where we had Cap and we had Thor, and we know it was leading to something. Like we're not even getting an Avengers movie. What, to 2025?
They're constantly putting out movie, show, movie, show, movie, show, and you're just kind of like, I can't go back and rewatch the movie to get what I got because I got 12 episodes over here, I got 6 over here, and then I gotta finish watching this movie here to get to where I gotta get within these 12 episodes within the next year. So something has to give.
Do they recast Kang or do they switch over to Doctor Doom? Do y'all think it's worth it to bring back the old heroes? And I'm going to say this, I bet it would work. Yo, what's poppin', everybody? It's the No Level Cap Podcast. We back once again with the crew to talk about all the anime, all the gaming, all the nerd culture, none of the bullshit. Let me introduce you to my incredible co-hosts. We've got the collector of collectors, Will Coleman. What's going on, Will?
Nothing. I've been playing Theater Rhythm again because they just put out the Final Fantasy 16 tracks. So yeah, I've been playing that and jamming that right now.
And they've been updating the hell out that game, huh?
They've been putting music on there. They just been slapping music on for like the past couple months now. Like every time, like I think this recent update with Final Fantasy 16 was like 11 tracks. So a nice chunk of music on there from a lot of pivotal moments in the game.
Nice. Next up, we got the Black Daredevil and the Secret Weapon of No Level Cap, Terrence Flowers. What's going on, Terrence?
Hey, everything is all good. I can't complain. Haven't really been watching too much anime or doing too much gaming, but I need to. There are definitely some shows I could stand to catch up on, like Jujutsu Kaisen. There was a bunch that we talked about earlier before the podcast. But yeah, today I think we're recording this on Friday. Invincible just came out, the first episode of season 2. So definitely going to go and check that out when I get the opportunity. But yeah, everything's all good for me.
All right, glad to hear it, bro. Next up, we've got the living cartoon and the man with the golden voice, Rakeem Beck. What's going on, Rakeem?
Hey, everybody. I've been pretty busy with work this week, so I didn't get an opportunity to really play like Spider-Man or some of the games I wanted to play. So I played some smaller projects. I've been in a dungeon crawler mood. So I've looked up this game called Lunacid, which is a first-person dungeon crawler that just released that's in the vein of the old school Kingsfield games, the old school FromSoft games back on PS1. There's a big push right now. We just kind of on Steam and on PC, that was a big push for like 16-bit games. But now we're getting to the PS1 era games. And now the PS1 or N64 aesthetic is very popular. And so I'm starting to see a lot more games like that. And I just want to try this one out. And it's pretty good so far. Pretty straightforward. Just some kind of smaller experience I like to play in my free time when I don't play major titles. And everything else has been straight. Watch sports and ready to get onto the podcast tonight.
Hey, glad to hear it. That's what's up. Next up, we've got One Punch Man and the Master of Combos, Devin Butts. What's going on, Devin?
Pretty good, man. This week, just mainly been working on some Mortal Kombat content. Dropped a combo video yesterday. Excuse me. Probably be dropping a few more. Do a re-upload from a earlier one I did. The quality was kind of shoddy on that one, so I'm gonna probably re-upload that one. Been playing online that I finally can actually play the game. Now I did like an update to my drivers, but the game still doesn't work like perfectly. So it's still giving me some issues. But yeah, MK, definitely gonna watch Invincible as Terrence mentioned, and hopefully finish Pluto. That's been enjoyable.
Hey man, when we gonna get that combat class part 2?
Oh, you talking about the I actually
Yes,
have
sir.
an idea for one that I probably will do once I do like a few more characters combo videos. So
Okay. Of course, I am Sage Ashford, the man who won't shut up. I played a little bit of Trails to Azure. I've been getting back to Super Robot Wars 30. I picked that up again, and I've just been trying to go through that. I lost my save because like the first time I played it, it was like a pirated copy, and then I was like, all right, look, let me go ahead and buy the game because I was such a big fan of it, and so like I picked it up and I was like, all right, let's try to get, and then like it had lost all my shit, and so I had to start from zero. And so now I'm just like skipping story because I'm like, all right, I already know what happens here. Let's just get to the fighting. And so I've been getting into that, trying to build my mech army up, as it were. That's been pretty fun. Getting close to the end of Trails to Azure. That'll mean I'll have beaten Trails 4 through 9. It would leave me with 10 and 11, and then of course the original trilogy that I'll get to at some point. But yeah, it's been a good time. I'm probably gonna get into some anime. I got an anime mini marathon planned on Sunday. I'm excited to get into that. So, but for right now, if you didn't know, No Level Cap goes live every Monday morning. We're on YouTube for video fans, but if you prefer the audio version, we're live on Spotify as well. We've also been game streaming Thursday nights around 8 to 9 Central. You'll find me, Rakeem, and Devin playing video games together. We were back this week getting into the weirder side of the Yakuza universe, or the Judgment universe, as things kind of spiraled. It went from being like a straightforward murder story to like dealing with some dance and mystery clubs, and it's very weird, but it's pretty fun. But yeah, we're around every week, watching Yagami guide and or beat up these kids. So,
or both.
Well, I did say and or, so there you go. But yeah, it's been a while since we've discussed, and this is a little bit of a pivot from our usual anime gaming content, but it's been a while since we discussed the MCU. We stepped away from it for a couple of reasons, but most recently there was this article in the Variety entitled "Crisis at Marvel," and I'm still somewhere DC's like, "Hey man, that's our thing." But the article had a lot to it. It talked about Kevin Feige and Disney recognizing Marvel ain't as hot as it used to be. We got a bit of insight into how their movies have been working, how they haven't been working, how some projects, up to come have been struggling. And there's one big thing they talked about at the end that we'll get into, and at the end of our podcast, that had us all a bit concerned or curious. So I do want to get into that. The first question I want to ask y'all, since I know everybody pretty much read the article, but the first question I want to ask y'all is, do y'all think that Marvel's problem is that there's just too much content? And I would say, to me, like, yeah, it is kind of too much content. Like, you could tell that it's kind of spiraled out for them. Like, you could tell they were controlling all of this from the top down and not really giving a lot of their creatives too much control. But as you started introducing television series and expanding the universe, as it were, you need to give your creatives control. And they don't. But the problem is the system isn't built to give them creative control, which is why you end up with weird articles. Like, I think a month ago, they were like, oh, yeah, we're going to start hiring showrunners for our TV shows. And it's like, motherfucker, you should have been had that. Like, what are you talking about? Like, oh, we now finna start hiring some showrunners. Like, no, that's a sign of too much editorial control, which is why that article mentioned, it could be like 4 weeks of reshoots to fix a messy storyline. And it's like, what should be happening here is that you should be writing out a handful of bullet points of stuff that you need to have happen by the end of the movie, and then tell the director, tell the writers, like, hey man, however y'all get there is up to you. Like, we're not gonna micromanage you. Like, we've got 3 or 4 points we need you to hit, and then that's it. Like, I don't care whatever else you do, however you want to do the story. Because I mean, like, and that's how it works in the comics. You let the creators write what they want to write. You let the artists do what they want to do. And then, like, there's some chaos that comes from that, but it's a beautiful sort of chaos, because now the next person can look at what happened to the last project and go like, oh, okay, well, I can do this with the story since they did that. And instead of them doing that, they're trying to like tightly create this clockwork universe where everything moves in order, and it's just not working. Like, you can tell. So I do want to ask everybody else, Rakeem, what do you think? Is there too much content?
I wanted to start the conversation with saying, oh, how the mighty have fallen, but they haven't really fallen. They're just down on one knee to me. I think the real problem, first of all, yes, there is too much content. I totally agree with that. But the real problem was there was no end game after end game. It felt like their ideas and like leading up to, I knew they had the plan leading up to Avengers, but I don't even think they knew how big Avengers was going to be and how much they were going to get out of it. And it led to that 10-year run we had leading up to Endgame in the second half of that, which kind of tied a neat bow on that saga moving into the next saga. But when you got into the next saga, when we started finding out they were going to streaming and movies and alternating projects, animated projects, all these things, even then I could tell, I was like, whoa, this might be a little much. I think even we talked about this before on some older podcasts when they started revealing some of the programs. Like, what do y'all think about this? When it was
first announced, I tweeted about, I was like, this is too much. And people, it's too much. I think it could be exciting. I'm like, no, you asking too much. It was like, because they announced like a half dozen shows at once. And I'm like, who the fuck is going to keep up with all of this? It's one thing to say, oh, a movie or two every year. But like 3 shows and
it's too
3
much.
movies. Like, ain't nobody gonna watch all that.
From my own experience, I remember just the first year when they did the project, like, after they, the first original content they had was Mandalorian on Disney Plus, and they moved into the Marvel shows. I kept up with pretty much all the shows that first year. WandaVision, Captain America, Falcon, Loki, no problem. I actually enjoyed all those shows. And I actually was kind of looking like, okay, this might work. If they keep it just like these 2 or 3 shows and then do a movie after that, it might be able to work. But moving into that next year or the year after that, like, I started losing track of the shows myself. Like, I still haven't finished Moon Knight. I still haven't watched Miss Marvel. I haven't watched Loki yet. Like, I feel behind. And on top of that, that's for the Marvel side. I'm a Star Wars fan too. And so, like, keeping up with the Star Wars shows and the Marvel shows, and, I'm an anime fan of that game, it's impossible. Like, and I've talked to, there's other, in my job, for instance, there's other people who watch Star Wars, other people who watch Marvel, and it's hard for them to keep up with all of it. They don't, I ask them sometimes, I don't even know what's actually out yet, because, like, wow, that's out right now? It's too much. So the symptom, this is the symptom of, like, all these shows being hobbled together so quickly, and then kind of the aftermath, according to the article, like, not as well received, the shoddy CGI issues they had. That comes, like you said, kind of a top-down issue. It feels like there's too much micromanagement. They were stuck on this plan, and it wasn't flexible enough. It's kind of like we talk about wrestling booking, where, like, you try to get your star wrestler to read every line, and it sounds like a robot talking, and you're trying to push through a storyline, and people are like, this isn't working for us, but you're trying to push it through anyway.
You want to take that wrestling analogy wrestling analogy just one step further. It's like your top star, the dude holding the title got injured, and you're like, oh, well, what do we do? Or worse, the challenger that you intend to take the title off of him, then got injured, and you're like, oh, well, what do we do? And now you just in a holding pattern, and it's like you done messed up, like everything else grinds to a halt because you micromanaged everything so tightly, and now you just in trouble.
I agree. And on top of that, I think another issue they've run into, now I think about it, is that I feel like they didn't get everybody to kind of buy into all the new heroes they brought into the story early. I feel like if they had spent just a little bit more time with those people, I mean, more buy-in from, but just having these shows back to back to back to back, it's not the same as those movies we had where we had Cap and we had Thor, and we know was leading to something. Like, we're not even getting an Avengers movie, to 2025
I think so.
That's too far. That's too far to me, at least personally.
I mean, like, and I talked about this with y'all a while back, or with you, and I think it was you and Nelson, and, like, we talked about it, and we were I was like, the problem is there's no Avengers movie. Like, that's really the problem. That's at the core of this thing. Like, because the big criticism, aside from quality, in which, I mean, like, you're going to have a problem with quality. Like, you're going to always need to release good stuff. But, like, the big problem, the big complaint everybody's had is, like, the universe feels directionless. You know what'll fix that? An Avengers movie. An Avengers movie that gives you a main villain, like the actual this year villain going for it. Shouldn't, like, you put Kang in, like, Ant-Man. He had no business in Ant-Man. He needed to be the background character, like, moving in the shadows of an Avengers movie. And what else you could have done is you could have taken, I don't know, maybe you could have had, because they were like, oh, we're going to have Doctor Strange be like the Tony Stark of this new era. Well, shit, it don't feel like it. He just feel like one more character amidst a sea of characters. He does not feel like a leader. He does not feel like somebody that's gathering, that's like, oh, if I'm not the leader, I'm at least playing a major role in the team that is looking out for the universe or looking out for the earth. And, like, you needed that. You needed somebody. It could have been Doctor Strange. It could have been Captain America. And you get all of them, Cap, you get Doctor Strange, you get Captain Marvel, and you get Shang-Chi and all those characters, and you put them together in an Avengers movie, and that will give you the direction that everybody says they want. So I don't know what the hell happened there.
Dropping the ball.
Yeah, basically. That's what happened. Devin, what do you think, man? Is it too much content for you?
I think I have to agree with that. The first thing that comes to mind for me is, like, the very beginning of, like, the MCU. Actually, even going back before, like, the MCU, like the X-Men movies, but specifically, like, the first Iron Man movie, which was the start of this whole shebang. It just felt like there was more care given to, like, these films. Even like the series, like freaking Luke Cage and Daredevil. Those are like some of the earlier shows that came out. That's when they were on Netflix, and now they're no longer on Netflix, of course, because King Disney came in and was like, "Not on our watch, nothing in my house."
I
they
swear.
Thanos snapped him.
Yeah, they Thanos snapped it. Those two shows were great. I didn't watch what was the show that came out before that? Was it Jessica? What's
Jessica
the show
Jones.
called? I didn't watch
Jessica
Jessica
Jones.
Jones.
Mhm.
But I do remember early on watching Luke Cage and watching Daredevil, and those were some great shows. And we had the turd that was Iron Fist that wasn't that great, but I mean, it was still early on. And I just felt like that would just really take. I'm like, man, this can be dope to get like some Marvel series that are like this thought out and this good, like these good characters and these just good scenes, the way that they're shot, like Luke Cage and like the fight scenes in Daredevil. Even like the movies like Civil War, the Endgame, all those movies, they were pretty solid movies. And I'm gonna speak on Quantum Mania because, man, like even me and my brother been having this conversation. It's like he's been like big into this whole thing. He's like, he watched What If. He's like, man, if they could do like this, it's like really tie things together with some multiverse stuff, and like I can't wait for this new phase. And even he's been like, man, I don't know, man. It just some don't feel right. And that wasn't a great start. Quantum Mania was not a great start. As great of a legacy that it has been like laid out so far with the MCU. Go ahead.
So what's really scary?
Yeah.
I don't think the article mentioned this. They thought when they released Quantum Mania that they had a hit.
Oh boy.
They was like, yeah, we gonna kill him with this one. That was supposedly the thought process behind the scenes.
To my understanding, like didn't the Marvels and Ant-Man 3 get switched?
Yeah.
In
Yes,
like production.
the article,
Yeah.
did.
Which honestly,
They did.
that says a lot right there. That explains a lot of why Ant-Man turned out the way that it did.
Yeah. It just like Say just mentioned, like Kang the Conqueror is like he's one of like the upper echelon villains. He's one of those villains that's on the level of something like a Galactus, a Thanos. For you to put him and just show, like usually it's almost like one of those things where even like Ultron, like it's kind of one of those things where like that level of a villain is put kind of like you said in the background a bit. He's like you're building up to this, but you put him in the first film and then you have him get beat by Chimerians. I still won't let that go. Like he got beat by Chimerians, and it's like he didn't really seem that powerful. Like the first half of the movie, he was like this imposing, I'm a conqueror. Then he started running hands with people. It's like, wait, you don't really seem that. Like, what do you do? You're like an intergalactic conqueror. I don't think you are. Are you sure? Are you sure? You're not king like the Quester or something? Because you can't be king the conqueror. And he didn't have that feel in that film. Even this article mentions about like the shoddy CGI work. And I've been noticing that too. I remember the first Black Panther movie had it at the end where Killmonger was fighting Black Panther. That scene was a little shoddy, but I'll give it its grace because I mean that movie did it exceptionally well, and I think overall it was a really great experience. So you can't just let that one little small scene at the end just muddy that whole legacy. But again, Quantum Mania, MODOK. MODOK was the green thumb sticking out. And I remember King mentioned we was in the theaters. He's like, it looks like his face is stretching. Like they mentioned it, it's like they were out of focus. And they were blurred. Like it's like the resolution. They stretched it out on something like, and then like upscaled it or something. It didn't look real good. And I'm just like, man, like this just. And when it's so blaring because MODOK was a big part of that movie. You saw his ugly face like a good portion of the movie.
Yeah.
So if you just saw him a little bit, it's like, okay, but like, bro, like y'all not gonna fix that. But even this article mentions about them putting crunch times on the VFX people, like, hey, get this out. And it's like, bro, like if these supposed to all these big budgets and stuff, like, shouldn't we take time to make sure that these things are like done properly? Like make sure, because like something else the article said is like early on you have this like legacy, man. This is the Marvel universe, cinematic universe. It has a reputation to uphold.
That Nintendo seal of quality.
Yeah. When you see that little stick, well, most of the time when you saw that sticker, it was gonna be a good time. That was some few exceptions, but I remember the article mentioning something like this. With this, it's like at first you saw a Marvel movie, everybody like, yeah, I'm ready for this, but now it's like,
Yeah.
I might go see it.
Yeah.
Even like my brother is crazy. He seen me like multiple takes. He's like, man, me and the family going to see the Marvels, but I mean, I ain't really excited. It's like I guess, and I mean, even again, the article talks about this movie being like rushed. Sage, me and him talked about like the director, I believe it was like leaving like post production. It's like, wait, hold on, the movie's not done yet. Like, I don't think anybody should be and you going to work on something else.
Y'all got it.
But it ain't finished though.
They were through.
Y'all got it.
That's what that means. They were through. That's like, no, y'all got it. I'm done. That's what that means.
I just, man, it's just. I hate to see this because it's like, man, and I know Sage is like the resident big comic book fan here, and I almost feel like when Hollywood gets their greedy little, greasy little money hungry fingers on something, it's like it's like a cow, that cash cow. They petting the cow like, yeah, you gonna make money for us, pet cow, yeah, cash cow, yeah, and they don't care. So at a point, like it was going good, like man, now they like, okay, we've got the general audience, like the public, like everybody's in on it. It's not just the comic book fans. We've got people that everybody's coming to watch these movies now. So yeah, we got them now. And I feel like I haven't read a whole lot of comic books, but I feel like there was more care given to stories that are in comics because they know it was garnered for a certain audience, and these people want to see like cool stories and cool characters and cool arcs and just a lot of dope stuff. So they made sure like we got to make sure this stuff is on point. But now, like I said, the demographic is broadened so much more to the general public. It's like, forget all that cool stuff and making sure. No, we don't need none of that. MODOK. We got MODOK.
I mean, I mean, that's the thing that sucks. Like so much of this, like one of the big criticisms I had about early Marvel, which is like, yeah, the quality was high, but so much of it was like bogged down in like this post 9/11, post war, super serious military bullshit. And I like me and Rakeem was talking about this the other day. Like when they did Agents of Shield, it just looked like Criminal Minds or NCIS, but with a little superhero twist. And I'm like, I want the Shield from the comic books from like 1960.
Oh yeah, with the blue suits on,
with the blue suits, the spandex and
the bandoliers,
the ridiculous fucking super spy weapons, and they was fighting Hydra, and Hydra had the green outfits on, and AIM had the beekeeper suit. And you ain't got to make it look exactly like the comic. You can make it look cool, but like they take them out the suits, everybody out their shit, they just look like regular people. I'm like, I ain't asked for that. Like that was my big problem with Agents of Shield, and like Marvel. Now that they finally have gotten fans, because like early on they had to kind of like ease you into the universe, and so like the realism made a little bit of sense. But now we got to the point where it's like, okay, well now we all used to the ridiculous shit, and you should be able to introduce more cool ridiculous shit. And instead they fumble in the bag every time they do it.
Yeah, it's you gonna get what you asked for, but you're gonna get the Call of Duty version of it. You're gonna get the quad stack version. Like this. And you know what's funny is I actually never got into Agents of Shield because it just didn't look interesting. I'm like, ain't this supposed to be like Marvel? Like, why does it look so, like you said, it just look like some basic television show? I'm like, I skip it, I guess,
And like the fans of Agents of Shield, it was so funny. Like the fans used to swear up and down it was canon, and it was like there was it's canon, and Kevin Feige didn't give not a damn about that shit. And now you can see it like that. None of that shit. Like I think there's evidence like that they already have broken away from any type of way that could be conceived as canon. And I'm like, yeah, of course he didn't care, because why would he care? Like y'all, that was not a project that he had under his purview, and it kind of showed. Because like the only time people really cared was when it was like, oh, you got the Inhumans. They had a few Inhumans, and you've got Ghost Rider, and outside of that, people was like, whatever.
Yeah, it's canon, all right. Whatever you saw and what you loved as a kid, we shooting that right out the window. It's out the canon. We shooting it out of here. But yeah, I just think we've just come to that point where it's become like commercialized, and they're just putting that commercial seasoning on it, and it's just kind of really killing what the superheroes, all these universes are supposed to be. I don't really like where it's going, and hopefully things can get better as the year goes on with this new phase. But yeah, They're commercialized, man.
I think we hold for right now. Like I think the Marvels, of course, that's done. So whatever that's gonna be is it's gonna be. And of course, the next thing coming down the pipeline, that's already done. I think maybe going forward into like the end towards the end of phase 5 and definitely phase 6, they should have like, okay, now we can start righting the ship a little bit. Terrence, what do you think, man? Is it too much content? Is that the problem, that there's too much content, or part of the problem?
It's part of the problem. So I'll say that I think at first with them doing the TV shows, in terms of the way that they presented at first, because it did seem like the shows were high quality at first, like starting off with WandaVision. I mean, we had that break in 2020 for obvious reasons. And then 2021, WandaVision came out, and at first it started off kind of slow and like people didn't know where it was going. But as the show went on, like people were talking about it. Like Twitter was ablaze about WandaVision, like the whole scene with Vision, like that quote from the show about what is love, whatever the rest of it is. Anyway, people were talking about the show. People did like the direction of that show in the end. Then you have Falcon and the Winter Soldier that had people talking about it as well. Like people were invested in the shows in the beginning, but then as we kind of went from there, it felt like things started to slide a little. Like as we kind of like introduced more like newer characters, it just felt like it started to just become a little too much. When we started introducing like new characters just from the shows, and then, they were expected to pop up in the movies, and it's like if you didn't watch the show, then you wouldn't know what exactly is going on with the movies. That's when I think it just became too much. It's like if they kind of stuck to the format of maybe like 1 to 2 shows a year and then maybe 1 to 2 movies a year, or at least 2 movies a year, then I think that would have been fine. But the way that they've been doing it, where it's like sometimes it's like, have we gotten like 4 shows in a year at one point?
Yes.
Yeah, it's
the
like
first year there were 4 shows.
Yeah, that's just way too much to keep up with. And honestly, it's not even just a matter of it being just too much for the consumer. It's too much for them as well. It's too much. You all talked about the VFX artists. Yeah, the fact that they have to keep up with all this stuff, and it's led them to want to unionize. Like they're working on unionizing because of this, and rightfully so. They deserve, like,
good for them.
Yeah, very good for them. They deserve to unionize and get paid more, and have better benefits, for what they're doing, because this is very important work. I mean, those Marvel movies are not easy to make. You mentioned Black Panther 1. The reason why that CGI was so shoddy at the end is that they simply were not given enough time to finish it, and that's the big problem with VFX stuff, is that if you're not given enough time, it's going to look shoddy.
It'll look bad. Yep.
Yeah, and I know that the Variety article talked about how like a lot of stuff in certain Marvel movies is like out of focus because they just did not have enough time to finish it. And that's definitely the case in Ant-Man 3, is where a lot of stuff was just kind of like in the distance, out of focus, or just looked off. And that's the reason why. And also it's too much for not only like the VFX artists, but like the showrunners, the directors themselves. It's like the biggest thing, probably one of the bigger problems here is there's too much going on. And funny enough, I had a conversation with my roommates about this like a month ago, how we just sat down and we talked about how each of these shows and each of these movies, like what's going on right now and does it tie together. And I'm just going to briefly go over this, but like, and of course it's obviously going to be like spoilers for some stuff, but I mean, if you're watching this MCU discussion, you're hopefully caught up in some way. But
Lord, I need an update, so let's bring it on.
Yeah,
so the same thing.
Bring it on up, man.
Yeah, so it's like, okay, I'm just gonna talk about some of the things that we have loose ends on right now. Like Shang-Chi, we had the end of that where it's like you had the 10 rings and trying to figure out like what is this and like how does this connect to like the grand scheme of things. You have the Eternals, where at the end of that it's like the Eternals get summoned by their god or whatever to come back. And there's essentially like a god living in the earth, or like a titan living in the earth, or something like that. That's left up in the air now. You have Doctor Strange 2, where Doctor Strange and what's her name went off to fight incursions.
Yeah. Now that I do know where that goes.
Yeah.
That's the one where I'm like, okay, that is the plot thread.
Yeah.
That's the plot thread, because like they're building towards Secret War, where they're like the 2015 Secret War, where the incursions cause like universes colliding against each other, and then both get destroyed, and then like eventually there's very few universes love. That's the main plot.
Yeah, and I get that, but it's still as of the MCU setting, it's a loose thread because we haven't like fully addressed it
Followed
yet.
up on it, right?
Yeah,
right,
exactly. In She-Hulk, you have the Hulk with his kid now. It's like, well, what happened there? It's like, how did he get him? Like, where'd he come from? You have Black Panther 2, where we have the thing with Wakanda and what's the other what's the water people? What's their names?
Hollow Khan.
Yeah, yeah. We have them going on. So we have like the tensions between them, which we don't know what's going to fully happen with them. We have Black Panther's son, which we don't know what's going to happen with that. You have Love and Thunder, where Hercules is now a thing, and Thor has a daughter, sort of. And you have, of course, Ant-Man 3 with the quantum realm. It's just like and this is just kind of like barely scratching the iceberg. There's other stuff. I mean, I'm not even talking about like all the shows and whatnot, but this just shows you how many loose threads you have in the MCU going on right now. How do you connect all that together? And to your point, were you going to say something? Oh, I thought you were going to say something.
I do have a thought, but I mean, like, go ahead and finish yours.
Yeah. So it's like, how do you connect all this stuff together? And I know that there's a way to do it, but it's just like there's so much going on that it's kind of hard for really, even if you're a hardcore fan, it's hard to kind of like know like, okay, how is this going to tie? How is this tie? And then more importantly, like the showrunners themselves, like how are they going to tie all this together? Because it kind of goes back to how a lot of them don't know what's going on with each other's projects because everything is so secretive. You had that whole rumor about how the director of Doc Strange 2, I'm blanking on names for whatever reason.
Sam Raimi.
Yeah, Sam Raimi. He hadn't watched WandaVision, so he didn't know what happened at the end of WandaVision.
I think that's a rumor. I think that's confirmed. I think he didn't watch WandaVision.
Which is wild.
It's your main villain of your story.
Exactly.
I think if I'm not mistaken, it would have been impossible for him to have seen WandaVision because like the timeline, like he started working on Doctor Strange 2 before WandaVision started coming out.
But the fact that he didn't even know, like the fact that exactly the fact that he did not have a roadmap or anything to know what was going to happen into WandaVision to make Doctor Strange 2. Yes, that's wild. So they're not. It seems like them, the MCU themselves, like Disney themselves, or like Marvel, they don't have like a roadmap to like help the directors and the showrunners kind of like figure out how to piece things together. Because that's the thing, is like usually with TV, you know, you have your showrunners, your directors and everything for multiple episodes and whatnot. And, you know, they figure out, the writers, they figure out how to string everything together. But with the MCU, you're having to take stuff that happened from like 10 years ago and make sure that it fits in with this new continuity. You essentially have to have a Bible of the MCU to keep up with before you even start a show. Yeah. The fact that they don't have something like that, or at least to our knowledge, they don't have anything like that. At least it doesn't seem like they have anything like that. I mean, it's wild.
The fans will probably make it before they do.
Yeah, it's just there's just too much going on. It's like, so yes, too much content is part of the problem, but it's also just that it's too much. It seems like for Marvel themselves, too much for the VFX artists, and it's too much for the audience. There's just too many loose ends that have to be tied together. And I get that usually they tie everything together into an Avengers movie, but it's just like, just all the stuff that I listed, how do you weave all that together at some point?
They're not going to do it well.
Yeah.
Okay, so one of the problems, ultimately the big problem is that there is too much content. Another problem is that at some point you just need to wrap this up.
Yeah.
You know,
there's been
at some point there needs to be a period at the end of the sentence, the end.
Yeah.
And then the other big problem is, to answer your question as far as like how do you wrap it up? In the comics, a lot of times some stuff just goes off into its own corner, and that's it. And so like you'll have the street level stuff, and then you'll have the mystical stuff,
the cosmic stuff.
The cosmic stuff, and they're all different. And then like you have the Avengers kind of at the center of it, and then like the X-Men have their own corner of the universe. And sometimes they don't meet up. Sometimes it's just, if all you want to fuck with is some magic shit, you over here in the magic corner, and that's it.
Yeah. And, you know, I feel like that works for the comics, but for movies, I don't know if that just really, I don't think that works the same way. Like, it just, yeah, it's because people are just going to ask a question like, okay, well, why isn't such and such over here? Like, why isn't that tied to this? Like, et cetera. It just becomes too much. And there's just no payoff, which I guess that's ultimately what I'm getting at, is that you have all these loose ends and there's been no real payoff yet. And so because there's no payoff, like the payoff for the previous phases was like, yeah, the Avengers. Because we've had no Avengers or anything like that, we hadn't really gotten anything out of watching all these shows and like watching these movies yet. We're kind of like just being dangled along, like the carrot is in front of us, just kind of like just dangling and just we're trying to get the carrot, but Marvel just keeps pulling it back. And so yeah, that's how I feel. Like
according to
it's
some
too
people,
much content.
They don't even know what the carrot is.
Yeah, there's just too much content and they just have too much going on. They really do need to scale it back in some ways.
Now that I think was mentioned in the article where they are scaling some of this stuff back to the point where like some projects being canceled if it doesn't have a clear direction, it's like, all right, get that shit out of here. And like even I think not just Marvel, but I believe that's the direction going forward for Disney Plus, to where they were like, hey, we was making too much shit. It was some of the quality was starting to suffer. We're going to pull back on some of that. We're not going to make as much content, and which is
they're trying to be like Netflix.
Weird. Yeah, but it's kind of weird because it's like, I know y'all at some point in the near future are going to want to raise the price of this, and it's going to be less content on the service. But I guess the answer to that is don't make everything based around 2 fucking franchises. Yeah. Maybe you instead of it just being Star Wars and Marvel, you go grab like some other franchises that people might care about, and you try to do more with them. Like I heard they were going to do, and I don't want this, but I mean, like they're in the right direction. I heard they're gonna do a live action Gargoyles.
There's been talk of like them doing stuff with Gargoyles because didn't they remaster the game recently?
Yeah, they remastered it.
They did.
It's got physical editions and everything out for people to play.
And they have made like series of some stuff, like they brought back Mighty Ducks recently, like a year or two ago.
Yeah, they definitely been bringing back
They
a lot
did.
of OG stuff. I mean, Proud Family. There's other shows
Proud
that they've
Family.
been bringing. They're definitely trying to dip into the nostalgia pot. So
Not to mention, also I heard that they're fully acquiring Hulu, which I thought they had already acquired, but they're fully acquiring
They had a
Hulu now.
stake in Hulu.
Yeah, Comcast
guess-
owns like a certain percentage of it, and they're essentially just buying Comcast stake in it.
Right.
That makes sense.
So that's another element of content they can kind of add into their platform. So I don't know if that's going to mean they're going to absorb Hulu into Disney Plus. It's still going to be its own service. I don't know how that's going to.
That kind of makes me
work.
wonder too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't. I think you split some of that content off, and like, because Hulu can be, because when you think Disney, you think like kid friendly, family, that type shit,
that's true.
and Hulu doesn't have that association, so you can do different things. Will, what do you think, man? Is the problem that there's too much content, or is there something more than that?
I think I do kind of agree. I really agree with Terrence, truthfully, that it's a lot for everybody all around. And when I sat back and I thought about it, I'm going to go ahead and make a comparison to some real life thing I had. I had like this professor back at Delta State. I can't remember the name of the class, but I hated him for it the first time I took him because he was handing out so much work that I couldn't keep up. I couldn't keep up in his class because he kept handing out work. And because of that, I ended up failing his class. Not necessarily with an F, but I ended up getting a D. So I'm like, I got to take you again next time I come around. Took him again, but this time he revised it. And instead, all those assignments I remember him giving us, like he would give us like 2 or 3 assignments, and they would all have to be done within that week. And that was like that almost every week for a semester. Then he came back and said, all right, look, I remember how I did this to y'all last time. I apologize. Let me split these assignments. You have a choice in the matter now. I want you to pick one of these and do them. Whichever one you do, I will grade you on. So I'm like, that's kind of what this sound like here, where like they haven't got to the point of like we need to split this up yet, even though I believe that they will. But they are at that point of I'm giving y'all too much work to do, so y'all need to get it done. We need to kind of push this out as quick as possible. Like it ain't even about the grade no more. It's about you just putting the work out.
You know what?
This
analogy is actually really good because
I was gonna say I think so too.
There's so much content now that it's starting to feel like fucking homework.
It is.
Yeah, exactly. Because you remember, like y'all said, how we started at the beginning with Iron Man and Thor and everything else. We were able to kind of get those in and take them in and go back and rewatch them if we wanted to. But now we kind of can't do that. But and we kind of can't do that now because they're constantly out movie, show, movie, show, movie, show. And you're just kind of like, I can't go back and rewatch the movie to get what I got because I got 12 episodes over here. I got 6 over here. And then I got to finish watching this movie here to get to where I got to get within these 12 episodes within the next year. So something has to give. I can't keep doing this. And those VFX artists, bless their souls, because I don't know how y'all got in the middle of this. I hate that y'all are in the crossfire right now. I pray that unionization kicks in quick, because there is no way you finna have me sitting in front of a computer all day long trying to work behind 4 shows and 2 movies within a year's time and telling me that it's not going to come out looking bad, because the more you give me, the less my quality comes out. I hate for that to happen to them.
What's so fucked up is
What's
like
up?
how the VFX industry works. Like they bid on the project, and so they all underbidding themselves, and it's a race to the bottom. So not only now are they in like this time crunch, but also they're not getting paid for this time crunch.
Oh yeah, nah. That unionization needs to happen quick, fast, in a hurry for them. And I pray it does. I pray for them, because that's sad right there. I couldn't be in their shoes doing that, knowing I'm great at what I do, and they're just telling me, hey, look, take this $20 and get started.
Probably ain't 20, but it's close. What's going on, Devin?
What's up?
So you just made me think about something, Will. And
What's
I just
up?
realized, I mean, they've been doing this for a while, but I think that they're doing the video game thing. I just thought about the cartoon Avengers Assemble. And I said, when did this come out? I think it came out in 2000. What does it say? Avengers Earth's
you
Mightiest
looked up-
Heroes
I was
came out
gonna
in
say.
2010.
Oh, Earthman.
Yeah.
right.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's the
Avengers
good
was
one.
Like
That one was
2014
fire.
maybe, or something like that.
It was
Yeah.
2013.
13. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
One
right.
year after the Avengers.
Yep.
So, and I remember that show being much less of quality than
You are
Avengers Earth's
Yeah.
Mightiest Heroes.
100%. Yeah.
You are right about
And
that.
I was like, when I first watched, I'm like, just get this off my screen. I was hyped. I'm like, yeah, man, Earth's Mightiest Hero. That man, I'm rewatched this. That's a
It
show.
was really good.
Man, I watched Avengers Assemble. I'm like, ugh, get this off my screen.
Animation wasn't as good. The writing wasn't as good. It was
It
just
was
Yeah.
wet.
It was-
Shoes wet.
if
Shirt wet. Pants wet. Everything.
Flintstones. Wet.
Avengers
So
Symbol was tight as fuck.
It's just fun. You made me think about that. I'm like, dang, they even like crunching out. That was just a year after that, the Avengers movie, and then that comes out the next year. So they were even trying to do little stuff like that. Well, we got to get this show out because the movie's hot. I'm like,
Well, it's actually worse than what you're talking about, because they canceled Earth's Mightiest Heroes to put out Avengers Assemble.
yeah, actually, you're right. I'm like,
It was all, I mean, like that has like a lot of its roots in like some creative, well, not creative, but like some executive disputes. Like they had a new guy get in charge, and he had a certain vision for like Marvel animation, and his vision was trash. And so that's part of why you ran into the problem.
His vision was go
this.
younger. His vision was go younger and go dumber.
This was his vision.
That was his vision. Okay, real
Eyes
quick,
closed.
because there's a big question I want to get to at the end. So real quick,
Sure.
there's this thing with Jonathan Majors. Right now they're trying to figure out, do they stick with him and see how the dice roll. And I mean, like, I understand what everybody talking to, but this man, he racking up too many different accusations. It's starting to fall out his pocket like loose change. And so, like, do they recast Kang, or do they switch over to Doctor Doom? Now, me personally, I'm like, just recast it. Like, I understand, you want to stick with Kang and all of that.
Right.
Like, sticking with Jonathan Majors, that has its benefits, but it also can have its drawbacks. Because, like,
Right.
if you fuck around and lose the case and all that other shit, steer clear of that. Okay, like, quite
Very
frankly,
much.
if I'm Disney, by now I would have gathered more evidence than the court case ever would, because I got billions of dollars and I can hire private detectives and find out all the information I need to find out. And I'd have been like, all right, well, I can make my decision. We moving on, or I'm sticking with you. But like, outside of that, let's just keep it in the realm of recast, or do they switch over to Doom? Because that's I think you recast, because I don't think you get rid of, because like basically what I'm saying is, don't get rid of Kang the Conqueror. Like, I don't want to see, like, I know that his first appearance, like Devin said, he got wiped out by the Chimera ants and shit.
That wasn't his first appearance.
You're right, because it was in Loki.
He's Loki.
But But like, I understand you could just say that was another Kang. But what you cannot do, and like, I mean, Devin talked about this a little bit, where you can just say not all the Kangs in the multiverse just look like that one dude. You could have another Kang that looks differently. And I think they may have written themselves into a corner with that one, because I think there is some kind of rule that says all the doppelgangers look alike or whatever the fuck.
Oh,
They all did look alike in that end
In
scene
that
for Ant-Man. So
Yep.
I think they may have written themselves into a corner. I think in Loki, because he was dealing with, what is it, the Time Variance Authority or whatever. I think they may have written themselves, but fuck all that. Write yourself back out of that corner and recast, because you shouldn't get rid of Kang just because like ultimately recasting is not something that you need to be afraid of. Yeah. If you got to do it, you got to do it. Okay, like I know when Chadwick Boseman passed, I was all for not recasting just out of respect for him.
Right.
But like other characters, like unless somebody, like it's not always gonna be a death, it may be something else, or it may be like a contract dispute or whatever. And what you gonna do? Just kill them off, or like, pretend? Oh, and then he went back to his home planet. Like you can't just keep doing that. So like you need to stop. You need to get that cowardice out your system. Hell, you had no problem doing it with Terrence Howard back in the day. The man said, "Hey man, I want a little more money, man. I need y'all to break me up something off a little, man." Like, and they was like, "Get out of here, man." And they ain't had no time for that, man. And you need to do that now. Like, you need to just go ahead and recast. Don't be scared. It's gonna be all right. I bet rather that than you like hold one of like Avengers' biggest villains of all time. Like it's Ultron, Kang, and a few others. Dr. Doom ain't even no Avengers villain like that. He a Fantastic Four villain. Save him for the Fantastic Four, because that's coming down the pipeline. And once you do have him face the Fantastic Four, you can make him a general Marvel Universe villain. But don't waste that now just because you push the panic button. You scared. Rakeem, what do you think? Recast or switch over to Doom?
So I actually had to think about this one because I personally want to see Dr. Doom first. However, like thinking about it, it doesn't make sense for them to get rid of Kang until Avengers comes out. At least get to Avengers. If you're gonna stop this at least stop it at Avengers if you do get to that. But personally, I mean, heck, it feel like you didn't kill them off twice. I think maybe even 3 times. If this Loki show is, I think he's in this show too. Maybe even 3 times. Like, dude, you didn't kill them all 3 times. You can recast them. It's not that big of a deal at this point. Like, I think another thing is like, I think unfortunately, even if they do recast him, the shine of Kang has kind of waned a little bit because you keep defeating him over and over and over again.
Yeah,
he's a little overexposed. He's become a little overexposed. I think that's a part of it. So I would rather, if they do recast him and wrap this up leading into the Avengers of 2025, and then after that point we can move on to Fantastic Four, and then you could pivot to Doctor Doom after that. I think that could work if you wanted to. Hopefully you get a really good actor for Kang Part 2. Hopefully they can knock out the Part 2 and kind of recover some of that mystique or some of that aura, that positive energy Jonathan Majors did have in the previous year, because people were all on him before this shit happened, which is unfortunate. But yeah, it's crazy how stuff outside the purview of like the show itself or the movies, although I heard Quantumania also had something to do with that as well. But like Hollywood's always scared. They don't want to take too many risks most of the time. What you say?
You're right. They don't want to take too many risks. But I mean, like, even in the article, they was like, man, we don't know about that because Quantumania didn't do well.
Yeah. I mean, but Quantumania didn't do well because it was just mid in general. It wasn't Jonathan Majors' fault.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. Yeah.
He was a high point in the movie for me.
Yeah, when I read that in the article, I was like, that has nothing to do with him. The movie itself was just mid.
Bad, yeah.
It is what it is. But yeah, I've switched over to Recast for me personally.
Okay.
Especially since we're in a multiverse story with a character that's been on multiple shows, multiple movies.
Earth's Mighty Heroes.
He was in Earth's Mighty Heroes. He was cold in there too.
Yes.
Yeah. But I do feel like even if you do recast after this, because I don't even know when he'll show up again. He probably won't show up again until late 2024.
Well, I mean,
recast, right?
Going off what you said, that he's overexposed, so I mean, he shouldn't reappear until 2025.
Yeah,
leave him out of it for a while and let people kind of like let the mystique, whatever mystique you can muster up, let that shit build.
You could do something like I mean you could do some kind of weird conglomerate Kang where he's like a super being or something. I don't know. He's like a godly figure or something.
No, because you got other godly beings that you'd want to use later. What you can do is he's got sons. You could do like some of his sons maybe. He has now what he does have is a younger history version of himself. In fact, he has a couple. Some that are evil. One that was like basically a good guy, and then he saw what was going to happen to him in his future, and he was like, "Oh man, fuck, I don't want to be a villain." So
yeah. I just hope, like I said, you can recast. I just hope the shine hasn't just been taken off of this, and then the controversy on top of that, people might just be kind of sick of Kang by the time they do recast him.
I co-sign. Terrence, do they recast Kang or do they switch over to Dr. Doom?
I'll be really quick with mine. I think they should just recast. It's like, yeah, I mean, I agree with both of you. It's just this isn't a Chadwick Boseman situation where he portrayed this character and was very beloved, and obviously what happened to him was very tragic, and we wanted to be respectful of that. Just because so many people in the industry and just so many fans in general just looked up to him, and the shoes have been too big for an actor to fill. Like I would have, had they chose to recast Black Panther, I would have felt bad for the actor having to follow that up, because that's that's those shoes are size 25. You can't fit those. Like, but in the case of Kang, it's like, sure, Jonathan Majors has done an excellent job with establishing that character, but somebody else can do that. It's not. This isn't complicated. It really isn't. Like, I don't think Kang needs to be treated as like. I don't think Jonathan Majors in this case needs to be treated as someone that's like, oh, we can't recast. It's like, he's having his issues going on. Just go ahead and recast the character. That way we can keep this story going, and that you don't flub it up already more than it already is. It's like, in the case of Dr. Doom, it's like, I want to see Doom, but not like this. It's like, I want to see him when the time is right. So yeah, I mean, I think they should just recast. I just don't think there's a reason for them to try and replace him with trying to replace Kang with anyone else. Just Dr. Doom is way too cool for that. Just save him for his own storyline and let Kang be Kang. Let's go ahead and close this out. It's as simple as that.
Agreed. Devin, what do you think? Do they recast Kang or do they switch over to Doom?
I mean, I just like when you talked, I just recast, because I mean, actually, the only caveat to that is I did think about that, is what Terrence mentioned, the scene where they showed like all the Kangs looked like Jonathan Majors. So it will be a little weird now, because I mean, in like other Kang, like Earth's Mightiest Heroes, it was like different versions for every, universe. And I feel like they almost kind of modeled Kang off the main Kang from that one, because he looked, I feel like he looks more to like akin to how that one looked, in that cartoon. But yeah, just recast. I mean, you can get somebody like Steve Harvey. I think he'll do fine. Yeah. What y'all say now, Avengers? Yeah, I'm blowing this whole universe up. Yeah. Survey says y'all going to sleep. So that, I mean, you could do, Spice Adams. What you say now, Chuck? We're gonna blow up the universe. All right, bet. Yeah, just recast, man. I don't think, again, it's like, this was the first movie of this phase that just started. I mean, like, it wasn't like, I think it might be a little different. This movie was like really good. Like, man, it was just a whole great performance, and everything was just solidified. This is like no less than like a B+ movie. Man, but like, it might be a little harder to say that, but that movie was like, to me, like C- at best. I say so. Just if you recast, like, and like the whole Doom thing, I just don't think it wouldn't even make sense. I don't think you would have to pull some, like, say, just mention, like, I remember watching that panel of Thanos getting his whole skeletal system ripped out,
yeah.
Doom.
Man,
Like, hey, give me that thing, give me them things, boy. No, fatality.
Be the worst, the absolute worst option. Is it because they're so scared? The rumors are now, we were in the article, they were thinking about bringing back Iron Man, Cameron. What if they brought back fucking Thanos?
We're going to get to that.
How horrible of an idea that would be.
So I'm not actually going to comment on that, because we can get into that on the next question.
Okay.
Because that's going to be a lot of the next,
the
idea of just redoing and shit. Because I mean, like, it is not great. I'm not going to lie.
At this shit, that's just Dragon Ball at that point.
Bro, is it?
Is it?
Uh, I will say I looked up Jonathan Majors' age. He's like 34, which sucks because I was gonna say cast younger, but hell, you can't go too much younger than that and get an experienced actor. So I guess maybe you could cast older, and you
Steve
could get like an
Harvey?
older guy. I don't know, I don't know about Steve Harvey.
You're right. D.L. Hughley.
What if you
Not
got
that.
Denzel?
I'm glad you all aren't casting directors.
Hey man, you telling me that
Hey,
would
I'm
be
a cast-
fire?
If Marvel pulled Denzel, hey, that's my
I
cast.
don't
I'm
think
giving him a raise.
Denzel is kind of like Leonardo DiCaprio. I don't think he's doing
I'm joking,
a
though.
superhero
I'm
movie.
joking, bro.
He can do them
Oh,
fuck
okay,
ass.
I mean, I didn't know if you were serious or not. Okay.
No, I'm serious.
Okay.
He can do them fuck ass Equalizer movies, but he can't do no Avengers. What kind of shit is that? Look, the first Equalizer was cool, but them second two was like, well, the second one was mid as fuck. You like a step away from Expendables.
Idris Elba, maybe.
Well, he was already Heimdall.
Yeah,
he was Heimdall.
he's
Oh
Heimdall.
yeah.
He's
That's
Heimdall,
right. That's
yeah.
right. That's right. I forgot about that. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like, I don't want to hear no I'm too good for a superhero movie. You're not too good to do Expendables 3.5
It's time to get.
Equalizer.
It's time to get the criminal. It's time to get the actor from Snowfall.
Actually, Damson Interest, yeah, you could get him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
You
would
could totally get him. I'd be down with that.
He could just play the same role from the Snowfall.
He would definitely just be playing another version of
I
himself.
built this, Kang, brick by brick. I'll be mad for
All right.
He went to the quantum verse for a little
He
bit.
definitely went to the quantum
He
verse.
I don't know if
definitely went to
anybody
the
else.
Quantumverse.
He definitely
Shrunk
lagged
and
on
came
that
back.
one.
He
Hey,
went
man,
to
it
the
happens
Quantumverse.
sometimes.
You sure that ain't your role, King?
King be the next Kang.
I'll
He
take
show
it.
up with the blue mask.
I've
Will, real
totally
quick,
been here the
man.
whole time.
What's up?
Do they recast Kang or do they switch to Doctor Doom?
I was leaning towards the Doom thing, but it do make sense not pull him out there and just be like, all right, look, we ain't got our Kang no more, so here's MF Doom. No, we not doing that. We gonna recast. We gonna recast him because, like y'all said, we're in a multiverse. There's numerous other things, even though that whole all of them look like the exact same guy thing kind of just throws a wrench into the plan. I still think that if you had a choice in the matter, you can definitely pull one from one of them random ass verses that's older. So by all means, get an older Kang and go from there. Who I don't know, but we'll see how this all kind of works out. If Jonathan can get through this without too much more issue, but I don't see him getting through it cleanly at all. It's gonna
Whether
be a
he
minute.
gets through it or not, like it's just they Disney, they make family shit, and you don't want
It's
too
a
much
blemish
of that.
regardless.
Right.
Yeah,
And so like you got to watch out for stuff like that. And that's why I really didn't want to make it about whether or not they should stick by him or whatever. I was just like, if the choice is between just these two options, recast or switch to Doctor Doom, like which one would you pick? And I mean, it seems like we all kind of came down on recast.
We're gonna recast him.
Just one last question. So Rakeem kind of brought it up that I'd like they kind of scared now and they pushing the panic button. They're talking about bringing back the old heroes. They're talking about finding a way to bring back Tony Stark and Steve Rogers and Natasha Romanoff. Like they trying to talk about bringing them all back and just doing the old Avengers, get the gang back together. And I'm like, damn, you pushing the nostalgia button for some shit that was 4 years ago. What the fuck is going on around here? I guess my question is, do y'all think it's worth it to bring back the old heroes? And I'm gonna say this, I bet it would work. I bet it would work. Now that's not me saying whether or not I think they should. I think they shouldn't. Because first off, again, there has been no new Avengers movie since the last Avengers movie, so you hadn't really tried these new characters at all. You hadn't given them an honest shot. You hadn't been like, okay, well, here's the film called New Avengers or some shit like that, and you take all the characters, you have them working together. You hadn't done that. You hadn't done any of that. What you've done is you set up a whole bunch of characters, and that's like I said before, that's the unseen flaw. When the universe was small, you knew the main characters and they were featured prominently. Now it's been years since Captain Marvel was on screen. It's been years since anyone saw Shang-Chi. The next Shang-Chi film is after the Kang Dynasty. That's what they said, which is in 2026. Yeah, exactly. That's way too spread out. And then like Doctor Strange, that shit was spread out. Like Doctor Strange 1, when was that, 2016?
Yeah.
And then like they just did Doctor Strange 2, what, last year?
Yeah, and Benedict Cumberbatch said that he's like on an actor break right now, so shoot, probably more years before they do another one.
Goodness
Wow.
gracious.
No, like, see, that's the problem. Like, you got these characters too spread out. Like, and this is, I mean, like, this was always going to be the problem you ran into long term. Like, it just took them longer to get to this. Is that actors want to do other roles? Elizabeth Olsen, she already like, look, man, I don't really want to do Scarlet Witch no more. And I mean, the way that they told that story, you can't go back on that anyway. To me, maybe you can come up with like a alternate universe version of her that don't look like her, and you can do that if you want. And it's the same thing, like, because like people are like, oh, well, how would you bring him back? And you probably just do some multiverse shenanigans or whatever. But even that, I'm like, you kind of shitting on what everything you shitting on the sacrifice they gave just to bring these characters back and be like, oh, well, you know, it's them again. The only way I would let it slide a little bit is if you like recast all of the roles and you were like, this is the new Tony Stark. Like, remember they had that rumor with Tom Cruise being like superior Iron Man for a little bit. They had that rumor coming into Doctor Strange. If you did some shit like that, I guess I kind of would let it go. But otherwise, I'm like, man, I don't want that. And it's not as if y'all taking hella creative risks to begin with. This would be taking that shit to another level of creative bankruptcy. I'm not with it at all. But I do think it will work just because so many people are like, I just want to see my favorite characters in a movie again. So, what do you think, Devin? Do you think they should bring back the old heroes, or do you think they should at least, you know?
Because I read this in there and I saw it. They was mentioning something about like maybe even trying to bring the X-Men into the mix. Which I mean, I know they weren't part of really a big part of like the MCU that was before, but I mean, at this point, I mean, you know.
Do you mean like the Fox X-Men?
Yeah, like before.
Hell no.
Well, I mean, I guess now since they you know, it's not with them anymore, you know, it's like, hey man, we're gonna bring some X-Men in. But if it's one thing I know, man, and especially like gaming can kind of attest to this, like bringing stuff back or rebooting stuff, sometimes people with it. Even just an example this week, Fortnite is going back to OG Fortnite, and people are in love with it.
That's crazy.
And
5 million concurrent. Yes, they went back to the OG map. 5 million concurrent players as we speak.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
Oh wow! Holy shit! Okay, this is just dawning on me. I didn't realize the classic map had come back already. Because like I did see the headline that like Fortnite hits its highest concurrent player count ever, and I was like, oh, okay, I guess they finally figured out a way to get it right, because the ship that they was kind of going down, it was just gonna take them a while to get down, like way down. But like the way they got it back up was just to go back to the man.
Yeah,
you know what's
like
crazy
it's
about
still
that?
like the modern Fortnite, but it's like old map and like old weapons and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You know what's crazy about that? I remember just a week or two ago seeing memes about people who were like, man, wasn't nothing like 2018 Fortnite. It was a different animal. Because like all those kids, they're older now. It's been 6 years, like not 6 years, but like
almost
5 years. Like some of these people were
It's going on
teenagers.
6 years.
They're in college,
Yeah.
and their fondest memories as children was playing Fortnite in 2018. Another example today, they had BlizzCon today, and they had all the trailers.
Classic.
WoW Classic is like a big thing now. And I was like thinking about it, I was like, wow, it's like that crowd is erupting to play the old shit they played 10 years ago. Yeah. Nostalgia does work.
So that's why I say that could be a possibility that just might work, you know.
Oh, it sounds like me and you on the same page that it probably would work. But do you personally want it?
I mean, if we get that into some solid movies, I'll take that. Because I mean, we don't know just yet fully what this new phase is gonna do, because we've had what was it 2 movies now?
One,
the Marvels.
Well, Marvel's not out yet, so.
Oh yeah, because I guess it will be 2. So it really hasn't shown us much, but I mean, I've heard that like pre-game talk about the Marvels is not that hot, and then Quantumania won that great. So it still seems like we're on a rocky start with these first 2.
Well, at least we have Guardians 3, so you know.
Yeah, I forgot about that. Guardians 3. Yeah,
the one silver lining this year. Yeah,
the one silver with two 1 out of 3. So, but like I said, we don't know fully just yet. Yeah, but if if it were to happen that way and it's actually solid, I wouldn't be fully opposed to it. To be honest, I know you just mentioned the Sage just pulled like some kind of weird multiverse stuff. Even how I remember like in What If, like they did like this thing where they just changed like the characters, like T'Challa was Star-Lord. What did they change? I'm trying to remember all the characters they changed, and Killmonger came in there, and
you had Peggy as Captain.
it's Captain
Britain. So yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, which he already was in one of the movies. So.
Well,
let's not talk about that.
I was going to say that didn't go well.
Didn't go well at all.
Maybe doing something like that, changing it up, changing who these characters are from like a maybe a different universe or something like that. I think it will work. I think it will work because just like I said, putting on that nostalgia, people like I feel like that phase of coming into like the Avengers, those string of movies, like I think that was people. I'm pretty sure people's like their most fond memories of this like phase of the MCU. The Avengers, those 3 movies, and coming up to Thanos, Endgame, everybody's like, man, the Avengers, Black Panther, everybody was going crazy. So if you could pull some Mortal Kombat 1 type stuff, change the timeline, and you got maybe Black Panther's the Titan of this universe, and you got Captain America's the Titan of this one, and just pull them together for some type of
that's a different idea though. Like even that's more original than just bringing back the old cast and just reviving them. Plus, I mean, like I don't give Mortal Kombat a pass, but I kind of give Mortal Kombat a pass because they keep killing everybody. It's such a dark, bleak universe. They keep killing everybody. You got no choice but to reboot because eventually it's just a bunch of new characters nobody gives a shit about. But like with superheroes, like for the most part, like okay, you got rid of 3 characters. Well, 4. 2. No, just 3, right? Because it's just Black Widow, Iron Man, and Cap, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
And like the rest of the world, actually,
in
Hawkeye,
regular vision,
Hawkeye's kind of out of there because I think acting wise, he like the actor because of that accident he had, he can't do these movies no more.
Jeremy Renner.
Yeah, Jeremy Renner, he can't do those movies anymore. But like even that, like okay, but you still have all these other characters. You still have Benedict Cumberbatch. You still have Star-Lord. You still have Thor. You still have all these other characters that you drawn on. So there's really just no excuse as far as like you didn't kill off everybody. So
yeah, honestly, to be honest, this really what they should just do. Go ahead and like put the period at the end of the sentence. Go ahead, put the Fast X crew in there and just get that going because we already know that they're coming at some point.
The Fast and Furious crew.
Oh.
I mean,
like the who?
I mean, we already know it's coming. It's coming.
The Fast Avengers.
What else are they gonna go? Like the next Fast and the Furious movie is gonna be with the Avengers. That's probably what they're waiting on. It's like, hey man,
it need to be with Transformers.
They all of them gonna be in there. It's gonna be.
I don't know why they keep saying Fast and Jurassic Park. I'm like, man, I don't want to see that. I want to see if like you made me go because like they all. Some people keep saying like they should cross over Fast Furious and Jurassic Park. I'm like, what the fuck for? Yeah, exactly. What?
It makes
confused reaction. Hell no.
They were in space driving cars in space.
What are they driving? Cars? Like in robots? Space. Robots in disguise?
We got people out here catching missiles and pulling helicopters.
Somebody
this became a
I want the Rock fighting the T-Rex. I want the Rock fighting the T-Rex, and then Thanos come out of nowhere like, yeah, I'm gonna snap you again, and then Vin Diesel punch him like, get out of here.
What's wild is that this ties back. Basically, Devin is still just talking about Fortnite.
The family.
Family. Hey, that might be the way to go. The next Marvel phase is just like Mugen, just Marvel's Capcom the movie.
Oh my God! Now it sounds like what I said, what I came up with back in high school when I was they should just come up with a game called Versus. It's just everybody versus everybody at all times. Like, man, hell no. Give me an actual story. Will, what do you think, man? Do you think Marvel should bring back all them old heroes?
Honestly, go ahead and do it. Because I'm saying it strictly from like just looking at it because I can already see that if they're trying to write minus these heroes, I can see problems arising from people who are not looking for anyone new. I see new faces not standing, and I get it, but bringing in these older heroes, even if it's multiverse shenanigans, bring them back. Just go ahead and do it. Save yourself some trouble if you looking to do that. Save yourself the trouble, because if you try to bring in a new set of people, you go ahead and like, who the fuck is that? Why is he here?
Once again, I'm asking, do you want to see
Do
them
I
come
want
back?
it?
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
Let him go. Let him go
restore
at this
some
point.
sanity to this fucking podcast. What is
Let's
going on?
let's
Everybody's saying,
restore the sanity then.
yeah,
I'm gonna
just
say
go
it like
ahead
this. No.
and bring back the old niggas. Like, no, they dead. DED or
No, they ain't.
DND. That nigga dead. It's over with.
Iron Man found a Dragon Ball and everybody back. Let's go.
I'm walking
Devin,
right
please.
out the theater.
Just
Wish
go
me
ahead
about
and,
this theater and give me my money back. That's what you need to do. Shit.
just go ahead and call it a day on them and let it be. There's no need for them at this point. Truthfully, I'm saying it, looking at it like they gonna mess around making a business decision and be like, yeah, we're gonna bring them back. But if you're looking at extraneous like circumstances, like you said with Elizabeth Olsen, she really ain't here trying to do Scarlet Witch no more. Jeremy Renner's hurt. I don't know where Robert's at. Benedict is chilling somewhere in Turks and Caicos for all I know. So I'm just kind of like, hey, if everybody's just kind of off in different directions and you're going to wait to bring them back like that, just get us new people. Just get us some new people. And hopefully we can get those faces to stand out just as much as the old ones did.
Agreed. Terrence, what do you think, man? Should Marvel bring back the old heroes?
Nah.
Straight like that.
So, I mean,
straight like that.
So for one, it's like they're dead. Okay, look, I get it. I know well, let me not put it that way. I know somebody's gonna be like, well, actually, in the comics they do it all the time, so it wouldn't be much of a problem to,
Well, the thing is, that wouldn't be a comic book fan saying that. That'd be somebody that don't read comics. People that read comics, the first complaint they make is, man, they just keep killing niggas and bringing them back for what? Like, that don't mean anything. Like, that's a major complaint from comic book fans. They hate the fact that characters always come back.
Yeah, but yeah, I guess what I'm saying is like people will say like, oh, they bring him back in the comics, so like, what's the big deal? But it's like that doesn't necessarily work the same way here. It's like we had a whole 10-year arc of getting to know these characters, watching them go through their ups, their downs, and seeing all that come together in Infinity War and Endgame. To bring them back now would just totally discard all that, in my opinion. Not only that, but let's look at this realistically. Is Disney really going to be able to cut those checks to bring back certain people? Like for Robert Downey, he's going to be expensive to bring back.
That's what the article was talking about.
Yeah, like he will without question be the most expensive person to bring back. And Scarlett Johansson, I don't even know if she really wants to come back. And
does Disney want her back?
That too, and also she'll be expensive as well. Because Scarlett Johansson, other than Robert Downey Jr., like she's like the actress that's like done the most out of the MCU. Like she's, even when she was like in like prime Black Widow, excuse me. Even when she was in, I'm getting the names mixed up.
Yeah.
Like Scarlett Johansson, Scarlet Witch. Anyway, even when she was prime Black Widow mode, she was still doing other work outside of that. So, yeah, it would just cost a lot to bring all those actors back. And I'm sure Chris Evans, he doesn't mind doing other stuff now. Yeah, I don't know. I just don't. I feel like it's just, would it work? Yes. In theory, yes, it should work. I'm sure, people will be like, yeah, it's good to see the band back together again. But I just feel like it would just undo everything that's come up until this point. It's like you've got these other characters that you're rocking with now. Just work on fleshing them out, making their stories better, making their movies, their TV shows better, and just stick with them. It's like you've already have taken this cat out of the bag. It's like you can't just put it back in, Or maybe like genie's the better way. It's like you've already taken the genie out of the bottle. You don't want to, don't stick it back in at this point. It's like I personally just do not want to see those characters come back because I just don't think that it, just from a story perspective, it just wouldn't feel right to me.
It not only doesn't feel right, but like I could almost let it slide if they had done a new Avengers film and it bombed. Like if they had concrete proof that okay, we gathered all the new heroes together, we did a movie, and the movie was it ain't. I mean, like it wouldn't necessarily be like a 10 out of 10, but like a solid film, and nobody came to see it, and it failed. Then I would be like, okay, that's all you got left. You gotta figure out a way to bring back some of those old characters, but they hadn't tried. And so I'm like, hey man, if you're not gonna try, like, don't tell me, oh, we gotta push the panic button. Nah, what are you panicking for?
At the end of the day, as long as Marvel has the X-Men and the Fantastic Four, we've talked about this before. They're gonna be okay. It's like they just have to find a way to introduce those characters, fit them nicely into the universe, and I think things will be just fine. Because we're still waiting on Marvel's version of the X-Men.
Yes, we
and
are.
if all else fails, they have that glass that they can break and they'll be good. So
yeah, that's the real panic button.
I really don't think they need to fall back on like the old Avengers just yet. There's just no reason for it. Like if you maybe want to do that, I don't know, maybe like 3 or so years from now, whatever. But now it's just too soon.
Rakeem, take us home, man. Do you think they should bring back the old heroes?
Personally, a part of me as a viewer is kind of missing those older heroes to a degree, but I feel like just bringing them back wholesale and just filling them into the story is too bankrupt creatively, and that would cheapen the emotional impact of them leaving the series or dying in the case of Tony Stark, and of course leaving in case of Captain America, and death with Black Widow, but that was a whole different thing with a lawsuit and all types of stuff. So that got messy. But if they were able to bring them back and make this in a different way, maybe not just a direct story, like I thought of the idea of like, okay, maybe the story is they try to bring them back, but they end up bringing like the dark multiverse versions of them instead and cause more issues. But as a result,
Injustice.
Right. But as a result, though, the characters that fill their shoes, Ironheart, Falcon, have to face the former mentors, and they grow as characters as a result. That could be an interesting dynamic and story that plays with nostalgia and allows new characters to shine, and then people start rooting for them more. That's something you could do possibly. That's an idea. Something like that I'd be okay with. But just like, what Cap at? We need Cap. Where Iron Man at? We need Iron Man right now. I'm just not with that. Not with that. They'd have to make it more interesting. I think the problem, like we were talking about, like they're pushing the panic button too early. I think the issue Disney's thinking about, they're thinking almost like what happened with that final X-Men movie, the Phoenix one, where I remember talking to you guys about it. It's like, is anybody going to go see that? No, because the last movie sucked. I'm not going to watch the next movie. They don't want to get
about the original
to
X trilogy.
No, the
he's
second
talking
one.
about Dark Phoenix.
Dark Phoenix.
Oh, well, yeah.
That's
I guess
series.
Apocalypse didn't live up to the hype.
Right.
Yeah.
But I remember just within our own friend group, people weren't excited because the last movie just wasn't that interesting.
Yeah.
And I guess in their minds, they're like, we're treading on a downward trajectory now. If none of these other movies hit the same way, by the time we get to the next Avengers, it's going to turn to Dark Phoenix. We'll be like, who wants to see that shit? Superheroes out of it. But I agree with you also, like, they might be a little too early for that. There's still time to save this. I don't think this is a complete throw it away situation. There's things they can tighten up on. Clearly, they see it. They're already tightening up on the scripts. They're already tightening up on the creative direction. They see a lot of issues they're having right now. They're trying to figure out the Jonathan Majors situation. So they're trying to fix these problems. I just don't think the panic button of like bring these old heroes back is a band-aid on a deeper issue. The problem was systemic, from the creative direction to the people up top, and the issues you had with like rushing production, missing up production, and not having direction. You got to fix those issues first. But as far for me, like I said, generally for this final question, I don't want to see these heroes come back unless it's in a very different way that allows the newer heroes to shine out of it, not just bringing back the old guys that have a hoo-hoo hurrah. There you go.
Hurrahs is hilarious. I agree with you, and that's a good point. Like the whole maybe have them face their mentors and overcome them and stuff like that. That'd be pretty cool. The last thing I would say that I want to see Marvel do is make some of these movies for less goddamn money.
Yes.
They already mentioned Blade getting like what $100 million budget.
Now I'm a little upset that
Yes.
the first film they decided to, hey man, we're gonna reduce the budget. They had to pick the black person. I hate that.
I
But
hate
in
it so
general,
too.
Shit, he was gonna be like what the fourth character in his movie.
man, they said I was like, what the fuck? He's gonna be the fourth lead in his own movie?
You might call him Blade.
What? I know, right?
That's true. That is wild.
Now there
Call
was
my boy
somebody
Butter
that
Knife.
worked on the script that said in his revisions of the script, he had never seen anything like that. Now, granted, he's not on the script anymore, and so like it may have gone through more permutations, and maybe a more recent version of it is like, hey man, you know, it was, I don't know what the fuck they was thinking. I don't know if they was trying to introduce some other characters on top of Blade or whatever, but like it's a Blade film. Like, don't fuck that up. I'm not even a Blade fan, but like let's not get ahead of ourselves putting out a movie where you trying to set up some other shit. No, set up Blade and just do Blade. It's not that hard.
No.
Yeah.
But yeah, just in general, like these films too expensive. They're talking about, oh, we spent $250 million on Marvels. I'm like, why the fuck would you do that? You should have brought that in under like 180 million or 150 million. You need to go back to them old Phase 1 budgets, 140 to 160 million, and call it a day. Like all these films, like it's like that Indiana Jones film that came out not too long ago, and like the budget was some insane shit. And I'm like, Indiana Jones is cool, but it was never gonna make all of that.
I think a lot of that also comes down to like reshoots where it's like, and they talked about that in the article where it's like they had to go back and reshoot to make stuff make sense, and that adds on to the budget as well. So,
you know how you fix that? You write an actual script instead of trying to figure out like, oh, how does this tie into the universe? Like, man, you don't get that shit out of here, and just you figure that out after the movie comes out. Like, what's going on? But I think, you know, this is a great discussion, but we do need to wrap it up. So if you like this episode, I need a few things from you. I need you to do us a favor, hit that subscription button on YouTube. I need you to follow us on Twitter, follow us on TikTok, tell all your nerdy ass friends and family about us, and do me a personal favor and have an excellent week. Peace out.